Hello everyone and welcome to the Let's Talk Wrestling podcast, the wrestling podcast where we review every segment of Raw and give you the wrestling news of the week and give you the superstar spotlight that is this week. My name is Turbo Tony. We are joined by the fantastic, the eloquent, the articulate master of wrestling podcasts, Matt Marsander. How are you doing today, Matt?
Very good today, Tony. And yourself?
Yeah, I actually had a different introduction planned for you, but I don't know. I must have forgotten it before I did so. So I just went for the usual.
So I'm gonna win.
Yeah, stick to the classics. If the stick to the classics. That's it. Myself, I have this thing. I mean, there's obviously spring has just started. You know, the first day of spring was the 20th, and it seems like just on the date, just like literally as spring rolled around officially. My hay fever's kicked in, so I've got so I apologise to all the listeners today. My eyes are watering. It looks like my wife broke up with me or something because I'm just like crying like a bitch for no reason. So I could barely see the notes on my screen, so I apologise if there's big gaps of where I try and wipe the tears away as I try and actually look at the notes that we made on this particular week. So in terms of wrestling news, there wasn't that much really this week. So I continue to eat my words where I said a couple of weeks ago that there'd be plenty of wrestling news leading up to WrestleMania. It actually turns out there's not. Yeah. There is one thing though that I will make reference to, is that there was a podcast done by Jim Ross, and he interviewed Mick Foley over on I know Jim Ross is doing the Ross Report, which is his podcast now. I want to give our subscribers more sort of look towards other big podcasts, and that one was quite an interesting listen. Did you listen to any of Jim Ross's podcast yet, Matt?
I haven't listened to any of it yet, no. Which is really shame, because I'm really behind on my other podcastings, because I hear that Talk Jericho had Lita on it and all that lot.
Yeah.
I just I haven't even had a chance.
Yeah, I listened to that one as well, the Jericho and Lita one, but I think
it doesn't stream on my phone, which sucks, and that's the only problem. It's like, I've got in a couple of hours before the shop opens. Like, listen to it. No. Damn you.
Denied. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, Jim Ross, obviously, he's one of the most gifted speakers in the wrestling industry. So as you can imagine, his transition to podcast has been pretty smooth, as you would imagine.
Oh, yeah.
It's interesting stuff. And the good thing I think I recommend his podcast is because when you listen to the likes of Jericho's or Austin's podcast, they're also on the same sort of website, Podcast One, is that they tend not to talk that much about the product as it's going on at the moment. Jim Ross will actually talk about what he feels about what's going on in the wrestling world at that current time.
Oh, that's cool.
And he does that every podcast he does, which is quite interesting. The only thing I would say for anyone who's a big avid listener to those podcasts is that Jericho, as we said, interviewed Lita, and Jim Ross's next interview is with Lita, so that makes me not really want to. I've already listened to the story of Lita's career done by Jericho. I'll probably get the next one.
Yeah.
That's it, yeah. So, apart from that, like I said, not much wrestling news. There was a few little tidbits here and there, but nothing really interesting or anything along those lines. So we'll skip straight to the Raw review this week. We are definitely on the road to WrestleMania now, as we speak of now. And as you will get this podcast, it will be exactly 2 weeks until WrestleMania. The one thing I will add on is the wrestling news is that WrestleMania will now be 7 hours long. Not the actual show, but the pre-show will be 2 hours long, and the post-show will be an hour. So altogether, 7 hours. Will you be dedicating 7 hours of your day to watch all of it, Matt?
I can't say I will.
No.
I think I'm just going to dedicate the necessary 4.
Yeah, I managed to sweet talk my wife into watching WrestleMania with me this year, so it won't be a lonely thing. So at least I'll be able to watch it with someone.
I mean, I've got the day after booked off, and I don't know. I might try and squeeze some of it in.
Yeah,
the only problem is the fact that over here in Europe, we don't get the network.
No, we don't.
So
we can't
post-show and pre-show are kind of hard to come by.
Yeah. I completely 100% agree with you. The only way that I can actually watch NXT is through not exactly trusted sources. I think that's probably the best way to put it.
Yeah.
To keep things legal. But I still want to watch NXT.
After you've seen Arrival, and you now know a way of watching it, would you not watch more of it?
Yeah, of course. I haven't watched this week's episode, but I watched last week's. I kind of get backed up on it, and I kind of splurge, and I feel quite happy about doing that.
Yeah,
I will say
that with NXT.
The episode I watched, which had Bo Dallas's first match as not the champion. Wasn't that great of a particular show, but I mean it was still very entertaining, and I think they've set like quite a high bar for themselves in NXT, especially after that Arrival event, which I think was superb in every sense of the word. I mean, you've got round finally to watching. I
haven't finished watching it. I'm excuse me. I think I've seen an hour. I'm literally just about to start Paige and Emma.
Yeah, well, that match and the Sami Zayn Cesaro match are the ones to look out for on that show. So
yeah.
Now, not that being said, the Adrian Neville Bo Dallas match was good. It was very enjoyable, very entertaining. But those are the two standout ones for myself. But yeah, what was your thoughts on Zayn Cesaro? Go on, tell us.
It's like I messaged you straight after watching it. I was just finished watching the opening match. Oh my fucking god!
Yeah.
What a match!
It was very high quality. I mean, we said this back in the day when we reviewed it back on NXT Arrival. Was actually on air, and yeah, I was very high on that match. And as you can now attest to, the reasons why I was quite happy with that match. So
very much so.
Yeah, it does make me want to watch NXT more, and I know that NXT was more readily available over here, funnily enough, than it was in America for a while, but that's changed now. So NXT is no longer on the TV for us over here, which we used to actually get it on TV, whereas America they had to get stuff like Hulu or these video streaming companies that would give you that service. But we actually got that on the TV over here. We don't get that anymore, unfortunately. So, regardless, let's get into our Raw recap this week, as we do every week. If you're new to the podcast, what we do is we review every single segment on Raw that we get over here. Sometimes I know that a few people may be a little bit puzzled, the fact that sometimes over here in Ireland and England, that sometimes we don't get some segments that you do in America. It's just the way that the show is aired over here as in comparison to over in America. But that often doesn't happen. I think the only one we missed recently is the announcement of Carlos Colon going into the Hall of Fame, and Big Show being in a diaper for New Year's. I think that's the only two we missed. So
yeah.
Out of stuff we actually wanted to have seen as a 50% mix, so I'm not that bothered so far.
Yeah.
The show this week emanated from San Antonio, Texas. Go on, who's the home? It will test your wrestling knowledge here, Matt. Who hails from San Antonio, Texas?
San Antonio.
Yeah.
Why do I want to say Henry?
No. Well, he does come from Texas. He possibly does. I think he's Houston. But San Antonio is the billing place of one Shawn Michaels. So there you are.
It is yes.
Yeah, San Antonio, Texas. And this was on St. Patrick's Day, so they made a few references to this on the show, quite cringingly so in some cases. One thing that I find quite ironic over here, I mean, I live in Ireland. I actually went to a St. Patrick's Day parade in an Irish city for St. Patrick's Day. I'm going to tell you flat out now, the Irish just do not really care as much as the Americans do about St. Patrick's Day, which is quite ironic, really. I
think the only problem, I think, is because most of the world see St. Patrick's. I think it's like over here in the UK, most people generally care more for St. Patrick's Day than they do St. George's.
Yeah,
mainly because St. Patrick's is just like, let's go get drunk.
Yeah, it's an excuse to get pissed, isn't it, really? But and let's face it, I mean, for any of our American listeners, you've probably heard a lot of people, or maybe yourself, that you're very proud to say, I've actually got Irish roots in my family, regardless whether that's actually true or not. I think that's probably, I don't know why. I mean, I'm a big fan of the Irish. I wouldn't be living here without. My wife is Irish, but I'm just proud to be English. I wouldn't be going around telling people I'm Irish because I'm not. But that's few and far between. That's a whole different subject. Probably not for this podcast as well. But
that's more like a personal story.
Yes. If anyone wants to know more of that, then you can comment, and we'll talk about it next week. But so the home place of one Shawn Michaels. There was no HBK on this show, and rightly so. There would be no real area to put him in.
No.
Especially the fact that, considering the whole Triple H Daniel Bryan thing, he just come out in his hometown, he'd get cheered, and then he'd obviously get booed the fact that, he would be against Daniel Bryan. So he wasn't there for that, and that's fair enough, that's okay. It doesn't have to be at every San Antonio show. But the start of this particular show started with Triple H. Yep. He was already in the ring, so we didn't have to have the whole entrance. He was already there, ready to get the show underway. And he firmly believes that he's going to beat Daniel Bryan, as you would expect him to as a character. You know, you wouldn't be walking in there thinking that he's going to lose to the guy.
Might lose. Really.
Batista and Randy Orton came out and they had a little bit of a bitch fest. They were very unhappy with Triple H, the fact that they think that Daniel Bryan will beat him and they'll go on and be a triple threat match. And Triple H seemed very offended by this match. He seemed very offended. Almost laughed off the fact that Daniel Bryan would be able to beat him at WrestleMania. And he proceeded then to blow his gasket and said that when he beats Daniel Bryan and he will be adding himself to the triple threat at Mania. Now, personally, I quite enjoyed this segment.
I did. I very much enjoyed it.
I think
a lot. I just think it just made a change that it wasn't Orton making the interruption.
Yeah, it was Batista coming out first. Yeah, this makes sense to me. A lot of people may just get a little bit butthurt at the fact it's Triple H. And listen, the guy's not going to be in the main event of WrestleMania. We know that now. We know that he's not going to be the one that beats Daniel Bryan. It's not going to happen. But it makes actual sense, to be honest. I mean, a lot of things that he said in this promo was along the lines of that I've had to rely on Randy Orton. All he does is bitch and moan. It makes sense for him to want to try and take the title to himself and deal with it by himself, you know, and done with that.
I mean, is it wrong that I kind of want Flair to come back so we can have an Evolution Fatal 4-Way?
Yeah, it does seem like there's a lot of it. You look back on Evolution's kind of beginning, you realise just how much those people would shape what Raw would be in the future, you know?
Yeah.
So that is quite interesting along those lines. And a lot of people may say that Evolution actually paved like a very dark era in Raw where Triple H had like a stranglehold over the World Heavyweight belt. Just the kind of dynamic of having Evolution, having two young stars and having two already established stars. One obviously on his way out, which Flair was. Then obviously it gave these two guys such a platform to get big, and they obviously did.
That's it.
So I think there should be more factions along those lines.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I was quite like I said, I think this actually makes sense for the Triple H character to be doing this. And the crowd were really into the segment. They even cheered when Triple H said that he was going to be
himself in it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was quite shocking, considering it's just like every time, just like Triple H, it's like, boo! But it's like, I'll put myself in it. That's not a bad idea. Yay! I think it might just be because everyone's everyone hates Bautista.
Yeah, yeah.
And Orton is pretty much, as they said in the promo, I think it was Batista said, he is a paper champion.
Yeah.
And then as Triple H says, I'm sick of having a technically gifted wrestler who could essentially take whatever he wants, but has to have his hand held the entire time.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's just like, and people are sick of that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, listen, no one in the world wants to see Batista Orton. They didn't want to see it, and the fact that they've basically guaranteed you ain't going to see that match at WrestleMania, which we've said for weeks now, could possibly be one of the biggest flops in wrestling history, not just WrestleMania. So to have that completely off the table, maybe that's what they were cheering for. But to be honest, you know, like I said, we know as wrestling podcasters that we know a little bit more behind the scenes what's going on. That there is absolutely no way that Triple H will actually be involved in that match. So it's fine for him to make that stipulation, and it makes sense, to be honest. And everything like that. So yeah, a good hot opening segment to Raw, really did. The end of this particular segment, Orton laid out Batista. You could see it coming, you know. After, you know, just the way they were spaced and everything. You know, we know they don't exactly come out of nowhere anymore. We know where these RKOs are going to come from. But
that's it. Orton's not happy with something, and so that person's just far enough away.
Yeah.
We're getting an RKO.
Yeah, that's the way it's going to go. Yeah. It'd be more shocking if he went for a punt and actually hit it, but nah, he doesn't tend to do that anymore. But no, fair enough. Good opening segment, and like I said, it just makes sense for the Triple H character to enter himself in that way.
Oh yeah.
I mean, like I said, we've done a Superstar Spotlight on Triple H a couple of weeks ago, and we went through his history of having a stranglehold over the belt and putting himself in positions where he would be able to win it. And this is backstage, not actually in the ring, you know. So, you know, the fact is that all that knowledge is just free reign now. The fans know what kind of guy Triple H was, and at a certain extent still is. So, fair enough.
Yeah,
that's fine. The first match of the night was the Usos against the Real Americans.
Yep.
The breakup of two big factions on the roster, the Real Americans and the Shield, took a backstep this week. They seemed on page. There was no sort of thought of dissension between the pair here.
They managed to sort of get on together.
Yeah, yeah. Now, I'm under no illusion Cesaro will eventually break off. It's going to happen, but the fact is now they need to start setting up, and too many break-up faction talk before WrestleMania is going to get a little bit stale, so fair enough. The more they make you think that Cesaro isn't going to break, then they can do the payoff that he does. Or if he just doesn't do it at WrestleMania and does it afterwards, that's fine. It's coming, it's going to happen, it's just, they're going to go for the slow burn with it, which is fine. The Real Americans got the win over the tag champs, quite convincing fashion. There was quite a hectic uppercut here from Cesaro, and
quite a lovely uppercut, yeah.
Yeah, whenever he hits that uppercut, it's just gold, isn't it? I mean, did you see that the Zayn match?
The Sami Zayn one, where he jumped through the ropes and just,
Bosh, yeah.
But we're not reviewing that match. But I did, unfortunately, because I was just, it's in my notes here, just, after only watching that NXT Arrival match, the day before Raw, bad showing Cesaro, because I was just fresh off. That was such an amazing. What the hell is he doing?
Yeah. But the more Cesaro we see, we're big fans of Cesaro here, and he won me over. I wasn't too keen on this guy, but he did win me over the last couple of months.
I told you to have patience.
You did indeed. And you do have a keen eye. You're big fans of the Usos. They did lose this match, and I don't have too much of a problem with them losing the match. It sets up them having a match for the belts. That's fine.
It gives them their Mania spot.
Exactly. Now, Cesaro and Jack Swagger were set to be in the 30-man Battle Royal at WrestleMania. Mm-hmm. And I thought that would be a pretty good stage for Cesaro to showcase what he can do. But it looks like they're going a different route. It looks like, apparently, which seems very odd, they're going to have the Usos against the Real Americans against Rybaxel for the tag titles at WrestleMania.
Yeah, Rybaxel, from out of nowhere.
Yeah. As I don't even know how they earned. I mean, they probably won a match against someone to get that get put in there. But really, with their track record, does anyone really believe that these guys are going to win the belts at WrestleMania? No. Any credibility they had of being being tag title worthy went out the window. They never even got it because they didn't win any matches as a tag team to begin with, really. So
no, they started off weak and just nothing really picked up.
Yeah, exactly. And now you might be wondering where are the New Age Outlaws in this situation. We're going to talk a bit more about that later. But the way they've made these two matches that involve the New Age Outlaws and the tag match, I'm not entirely happy with. I think if you're going to have Usos against Real Americans, you can have a really good match there.
That's it.
Whether or not it's WrestleMania worthy is arguable. I don't think it is, personally. I think if you're going to have the Usos have a match, I think it should be against the Outlaws and have it a quick match where they basically put the New Age Outlaws to bed, and that's fine.
Yeah.
You could have that as you can have that as a calming match between Undertaker, Lesnar against the other matches on the roster.
Well, that's it. I mean, sort of we've just had Triple H Bryan. Now let's just have a quick match before the main event.
Yeah, essentially, yeah. Which I firmly believe anyway that. I mean, this may be a bit of a shocker, but I do believe that Bryan and Triple H will open the show at WrestleMania. I think that'll be the curtain jerker.
If they're not curtain jerking, then they'll definitely, I say, second.
Yeah, they will be very early in the card, no doubt about it. I think a good way to start off the show and get everyone ready for the main event is to have the Triple H Bryan match at the start of the show. It makes sense to me, anyway.
Yeah, it does.
So, all talk of that aside, this match was actually pretty decent, I will say that. It was of good quality, and you would expect that of Cesaro. I mean, Jack Swagger's good in the ring as well, and the Usos have been pretty good. So, if these guys pull off a WrestleMania-worthy match, there's potential there, but with the addition of the laxative known as Rybaxel, it doesn't add anything to that match. In fact, I think it takes away from that match. That's my opinion. What are you under the same sort of consensus?
I can agree with that completely.
Yeah.
I don't think Rybaxel are going to add anything at all other than just someone to get in the way.
Yeah. They're just going to be there. They're going to be another I mean, they're probably there, so they don't want Cesaro to get pinned or Swagger, so does Usos end up pinning them, and that's the way they'll retain the belts, and everyone walks home happy, and, Cesaro hasn't been pinned or Swagger hasn't been pinned or whatever, and Rybax will go on to continue being the jobbers that they have been since they teamed up together. There was the reason I put this in, like I said, we try and review every segment of Raw if it has even a little bit of meaning. We had a promo for Slam City, which seems to be like an online.
All I've got is literally, what the fuck is this Slam City?
Okay, here's the thing.
At that. Right. I think this is just like WWE just going, PG, hey kids, look, animated stuff. Woo! Woo!
Right, so you and me, obviously, we're not excited for Slam City. You know, as it's not garnered towards us, so it's not much of an issue, right? And you know, there's a lot of fans coming out and saying, "Oh, this is going to be so lame." As a guy who has a kid who's starting to get into wrestling, this is really ideal. So I'm actually going to support Slam City.
You are not going to have her watch that. You were going to rely on Scooby-Doo and the WrestleMania mystery.
Yeah, she's actually really excited for that. For anyone who doesn't know,
I'm excited for that.
Yeah.
I'm 26.
Okay. So yeah, if anyone doesn't know who hasn't caught up with our situation, I am a father. I have a 4-year-old daughter who's starting to get into wrestling now. She does enjoy watching it, and when this came up and she was there, she was like, "Oh, what's this all about?" You know, it actually caught her eye. You know, because the fact is animation, anything animation gets my daughter's attention, regardless whether it's Handy Manny or Dora the Explorer or Family Guy or something like that, which I don't let her watch that much because the amount of gore that's in that thing, and obviously language and everything. I'm a good parent, so. But this particular show actually gets me excited for her to watch that stuff. And like I said, the Scooby Doo, she's a big fan of Scooby Doo. So having that as a wrestling thing, fans may hate it, but actually as a parent, it's actually a way for my kid to get more involved in pro wrestling.
I don't care. I don't have a kid.
You don't.
I still want to watch Scooby Doo.
Yeah, you still want to watch it. Yeah. So you can expect a review of this Scooby Doo, from us in the next couple of weeks. We'll definitely try and get that watched. So yeah, we probably spent more time on Slam City than we really should.
No, we didn't even talk about Slam City. We spoke about Scooby Doo.
Yeah. Okay. Moving on swiftly. We had a backstage promo.
Ooh, oh yeah.
Yeah. We had the Shield and Kane. This wasn't much of a promo. It was essentially Kane saying, "If I tell you to do something, you do it." And that was essentially it set up what was to be the true segment between these guys later on the show.
Yeah.
Now there had been runnings between these. There's been tension between Kane and the Shield, and it's just built towards more of that. And this seems to be what WrestleMania program they're choosing to go with.
Yeah.
But more on that later because that was just a set-up promo.
That's it.
We had Hornswoggle came out and he was giving everyone St. Patrick's Day gifts to the crowd.
Mm-hmm.
Now he was greeted by Bad News Barrett, who had some bad news for him, Matt.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
Way.
So the bad news was apparently
you're all going to get drunk.
Yeah. To me, that isn't that bad of news. That's fine. Getting drunk and
you're going to make some regrettable decisions. It's like, I don't have to be drunk to do that.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes we watch Raw and it's a regrettable decision, but that's
sometimes I decide to not fast forward the Divas match.
Yeah.
Like today.
Yeah. So, it's a bit ironic the fact we know Barrett would have had a few drinks on St. Patrick's Day, especially with Sheamus. They're good friends backstage, but for his actual on-screen character, this just seemed a bit dumb because everyone was like, okay, yeah, that's exactly what we're going to do. That's not bad news. It was a bit silly, to be honest. Like a lot of the segments that involve Bad News Barrett, they just haven't got it right and they continue to get it wrong. That goes on from there.
That's it. It was very obvious. It's like, oh no, someone's having a dig at St. Patrick's Day. Send out Sheamus.
Yeah, exactly.
This is the only thing.
The obligatory Irish guy.
Yeah, someone's knocking on the Irish. Send the Irish.
Yeah.
But now, he had the match against Titus O'Neil.
Titus O'Neil, we know that's his name on this podcast. Yeah.
Sorry. Why?
Yeah, it was.
Why could he not have fought Wade Barrett?
Yeah, it would have made more sense.
Why could we have finally had Wade Barrett in the ring and not on a podium?
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And you've been huge advocate for the longer this guy spends outside the ring, the less interesting and relevant.
Oh, I had no interest. Literally, the moment I heard his music, I was just like, "Fuck off!"
Yeah. And it's the annoying heat. It's not the bad. It's not the good heel heat that you get. It's the sort of why you hear sort of the turn over the channel heat, which isn't good.
This was a prime example. It's like it's St. Patrick's Day. You're gonna have a drink and you'll have a hangover. Cool.
Yeah, that's what we're kind of going for here.
And that's the bad news. Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. It's like, don't have that Indian later. You might take a shit. It's just going to happen. Look, accept it. It's bad news.
This is just the world we live in. Come on, Barrett, get with the program. Yeah. The fact that we're kind of, I wouldn't say burying, but we're kind of giving the guy a hard break.
It just dawned on me. PG WWE Alcohol!
Yeah.
Mm. Sell that to kids.
Yeah. Scooby-Doo in the case of the missing Irish liquor, maybe.
Yeah.
Could be on there. So we'll talk about the match anyway. Sheamus against Titus O'Heel, and I
Yep.
challenge anyone who calls him Titus O'Neill. He is a heel, therefore his name is Titus O'Heel. That's the way it goes.
Yep.
Sheamus had a shirt on, and he honoured Brian O'Driscoll. For our American listeners, you have no idea who Brian O'Driscoll is, but he is one of the most celebrated and famous rugby players of all time, and he retired.
It doesn't even have to be the fact you're a fan of the Irish. Like, as an English person, I kind of wanted Ireland to win because it would be because Ireland winning was mean they're winning the Six Nations. As an English person, I didn't want that.
Yeah.
But it was Brian O'Driscoll's final match ever. And he deserves the proper send-off like that.
As an Englishman living in Ireland, I say you're a heathen, and you should be burnt. So,
as an Englishman living in Ireland, you will go with whatever the hell they say.
No. In fact, it makes me more want to go against them. So I was quite upset that we did not win the.
I'm upset we didn't win, but the fact that it's sort of like O'Driscoll, who's gone so far, and to sort of like, it was just like, yeah, final hurdle, fucked it.
Yeah.
Damn.
Well, the thing is, right, obviously in England you don't get it as bad. I know we're going off topic here, but it's the Let's Talk Wrestling podcast. It's what we do. So, you know how everyone's kind of sick of, like, everyone blowing smoke up John Cena's ass? Over here in Ireland, Brian O'Driscoll is the John Cena of rugby, so you can understand why I'm not too keen on the guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do understand what you mean, and in terms of rugby players, he will be celebrated as one of the greatest of all time. He didn't just play, and he was semi-good, but he got into the team. He was one of the best players for over that 140 caps. Imagine playing 140
like
rugby games. Jesus. For anyone that doesn't know what rugby is, YouTube it now. It ain't this basically puts American football as ballet to shame. It does. It really does. You will see people with broken noses doing interviews after the match. There ain't no helmets in rugby, I'll tell you that much. And I've seen people get stamped on with studs and having their ears like destroyed. So yeah, rugby is the sport. I'm quite a big fan of it, but that was a good nod to him anyway. And JBL actually referenced that on commentary, which he does do a lot of obscure sports, which would be, rugby is obscure sports in America. But he does make those references, which as a guy in England, I appreciate. The match itself wasn't anything special at all. If this is all that Titus O'Heel's heel turn kind of amounts to, it's nothing really that great. And basically the whole kind of story about this is Titus got Hornswoggle, slapped him around a little bit, got himself a little bit heel heat. Sheamus made the save, even using Hornswoggle as a weapon. So I would actually say that Titus O'Neil deserves a DQ win here.
Yeah.
Which he didn't get. He got bro-kicked and pinned. But surely using Hornswoggle as a weapon against your opponent is a foreign object. He is Irish, so he's foreign, and you're throwing him towards him. So DQ win. Are you on the same that?
Yeah, we'll go with that.
We will send an angry worded letter. Don't worry, Titus O'Hill. We'll get you that win. As much as it wouldn't matter, of course. We had Christian on commentary, and the commentary team.
I wanted him to shut up.
Well, the commentary team were making it very hard for him to kind of get over as a competitor. They were burying Christian here.
Oh yeah, definitely.
His win-loss ratio and what commentary was treating him here destroyed really any credibility Christian had as a legitimate competitor for Sheamus.
Yeah.
And it continued here, even though he attacked him after the match. This rivalry continues on, and we know Sheamus will win. That's the way it'll go. Maybe it would be a bit more interesting if Christian got the odd win here and there, and it was like a back-and-forth rivalry. But there's been no wins there. I know a lot of people say it's not about the win-loss ratio, it's about the story. Well, the story is that Christian's a loser. That's the only story they're telling here. Which makes it bad because, today's actual Superstar Spotlight is on Christian, so we're going to talk about him in great depth. And he is a little bit more deserving of that, shall we say. In fact, one of the podcasters I'm quite a big fan of, the Solid Monster Sounds Off, if you're listening to this podcast, you more than likely have listened to his. He did an article actually on Christian being the most underappreciated talent on the roster. I haven't actually got around to reading the article, so I can't exactly quote on whether it's any good or not, but I'm a big fan of his, and he gave me a little bit of a heads up on Twitter today, so that's always nice. What was your thoughts on this match? What was any point? You said there was no point, obviously, in having this match.
There was no point.
Yeah.
Just
And it didn't do anything for Titus O'Heel. It just seems like anyone that's involved with a program with Sheamus, you're not going to come out looking good.
Yeah.
Which, for all intents and purposes, is part of the reason why people turned on Sheamus to begin with, and he's getting dangerously close to that at this point as well. We had news that Arnold Schwarzenegger, give you your best Arnie impression, Matt. You're a lot better. You did a fantastic Paul Bearer last week. Come on, give us your best shot.
What do you want from Arnie?
Yeah, there you go. Yes, I applaud you. Well done, Matt. Whenever we need you to...
It probably helped the fact that I was watching Total Recall last night.
Just so I can complete my sentence, people wondering what the hell we're talking about if they haven't watched Raw anyway. Arnold Schwarzenegger was confirmed as a guest host for Raw next week, so that's the reason why we're making our Arnold Schwarzenegger impressions. He's got like a new movie out that's, I don't know, he's back into the movie business now, and good luck to the guy. Obviously as a kid I used to rather enjoy Arnold Schwarzenegger's movies. Now, despite the fact that they don't make really a big deal of these guest hosts anymore, which is also for better or for worse, Scooby-Doo will also be appearing next week.
Yeah, that's true.
So could we see an Arnold Schwarzenegger versus Scooby-Doo match? One we'll stick a pin in that.
One will hope not.
It's one of those things. I'm obviously joking around. They'll probably have separate skits and just to promote their respective movies that are coming out. But with the amount that Aaron Paul was used on Raw during his guest appearance, I wouldn't put too much in Arnold being involved that much during the show. He'll obviously be there and he'll come out. He might even speak on the mic, but. No, we're not going to see him in a 6-man tag match against the Wyatts getting eaten. No, that's not going to happen. So,
you want to be the destroyer of worlds.
There you go. That's the soundbite for next week's show. There you are. You will be terminated, Mr. Wyatt. Yeah. John Cena, talking of Bray Wyatt, John Cena came to the ring in the next segment, and he admitted, rightly so, that he is afraid of Bray Wyatt, which is what he should have done last week instead of making jokes at the guy. We said last week that myself more so last week, I said that the very idea of John Cena poking fun at Bray Wyatt is not what I would have booked it as. I would have booked everyone on the roster to be scared of these guys, just because obviously how good they are in that character. So I was quite happy to see that John Cena was treating them with the respect that kind of their characters deserve, which is good. Now, every wrestler on the roster, like I said, should fear him. That's the way that Bray Wyatt as a character goes. And they did a promo here along the lines. I think it was a little bit later on, actually, they did that, so we'll talk about it then. But Bray Wyatt came onto the screen. He was wearing John Cena merch. He had a shirt on, the banners. He made a brilliant statement about Cena's plastic girlfriend. Yes. Of which he did speak to Mrs. Bella before the promo as a classy gentleman backstage before he did that promo. Mm-hmm. So Mr. Austin Aries shoving his dick into Christy Hemi's face has something to learn from Mr. Wyatt about etiquette.
Oh yeah, decency.
Yeah. Now obviously everyone knows. Anyone who hasn't been living under a rock, a certain Nikki Bella when she came back was. Spouting 2 rather large cushions on her chest that she didn't have there when she left beforehand. Everyone knows that she had a boob job. It's just common knowledge now. And if you didn't know she had a boob job, then you could have put 2 and 2 together. She did not magically grow breasts over the months that she was out of WWE briefly.
Just thinking that joke was like you hold your breath and a beard appears. I'm just imagining sort of Nikki Bella just like.
There you go. From B to C to D, all the way there and back, yeah.
Yep.
So, I got a monster pop. It did. A lot of fans did. I wouldn't say a monster pop. It got a response required.
It was a good response, yeah.
Bray Wyatt, as always. I hate kind of talking over and over again about the same stuff, but he's brilliant on promos. We know this, and it was another good one. Not really much else we could say. But, classy guy.
The thing I just loved is just, how can he not get over with a promo like that?
Exactly. Yeah.
How it's especially just I don't care if I die, as long as everyone knows you're a fake.
Yeah.
It's just that's it. You've turned around and said, I'm going to put my life on the line. You've got to win now.
Yeah. And my prediction is, I'm putting it right now, which can be a little bit shaky. I may end up changing my mind towards Mania.
Wyatt to win.
I think Wyatt is to win. Yeah, I think he goes over. I think he beats John Cena here. Now, whether it's a bit of a fuck finish, whether the Wyatts come in and help him win, I do think Bray Wyatt will win. But the reason why I change this sometimes is that they're putting a lot of this about being Cena's legacy and the fact that if he loses, it puts everything kind of jeopardy. Every single time they've done that, John Cena comes out the winner.
Yeah,
so.
I just think it's just like, I'm wearing your t-shirt, John. Maybe I can be a hero and a good man. It's like, I love Bray Wyatt.
Yeah. He's phenomenal.
I think,
and he is that character.
To put it the best, I don't know if you saw it, but Mick Foley sent out a tweet saying that Bray Wyatt is a better mankind than mankind. Sort of along those sort of lines.
I think he cuts better promos than mankind did during that time.
That's it. And Mick Foley did some awesome promos as mankind.
Yeah, in fact, actually, in that Mick Foley JR podcast that they did, they spoke actually about the promo that they did together that actually got mankind really over with the crowd and really jump-started his career.
Yeah.
So he has some good ones, but I don't think you can beat Wyatt in terms of promo quality week in, week out.
But I think that's it. I think essentially with that tweet, it's Mick Foley handing over the deranged promo torch.
Yeah, it's a little bit, isn't it? The weird, demented torch. Over towards that. I think he's earned it, personally. You can't really say anything bad about Bray Wyatt's performances over the last months since he's joined the main roster. And you look at this guy, and the fact that he's brothers with Bo Dallas just tells you how different this guy has become to do this persona. So kudos to him. He's done really, really well, and we're big fans of him here. You're looking at what is the monster heel the next couple of years in WWE. He is probably going to be the biggest heel that company has for a long, long time.
Definitely.
If we carry on with that. So.
Well, is that awkward heel?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I made a note here that you could actually just back to back put all his promos together, and you could make a movie that I'd happily watch.
Yes.
Yeah. So.
I'd agree with that. Rather.
Imagine when they release the Bray Wyatt DVD, how they're going to pick between these promos to put on his DVD. Dear me, it's going to be quite awkward, isn't it? Just one disc dedicated to all the promos he's had on Raw over the last couple of months. I think I'd be happy to buy that. I think.
Yeah, definitely.
Moving on. We had Orton versus Bryan. This is a match that earlier on in the show when Orton was bitching around the ring. He begged Triple H for this match so he could show that he could deal with Bryan. It was a no disqualification match. And the kendo stick got a lot of love here. I'm sure the ECW enthusiasts enjoyed this at least a little bit.
Yeah.
The kendo stick getting so much love.
That's it.
Probably cheating, the kendo stick itself cheating on Sandman maybe a little bit, but we'll talk about
Sandman.
So, I mean, as we said, this was a good match. It was a brutal match. Not really levels of brutality that we saw with Sheamus and Christian last week, but it was a little bit more interesting. But even still, it kind of suffers to the extent that we've seen these two guys over the last 6 months wrestle each other to death. Now they've had good matches. All their best matches, funny enough, have not been on pay-per-view. They've all been on Raw. But this was enjoyable. It was entertaining enough to watch, which was fine. Batista came out. He basically laid out Orton with a spear before he can do anything else. Bryan drop kicks him and then picks up the pieces to get the pinfall victory. So Batista gets his own back after the RKO earlier on by giving a Batista bomb to Orton. I can see this being a start of the kind of storyline in the match where everything that goes on around Daniel Bryan is starting to break down, and he picks up the pieces and walks out Mania champion because of it. Whether regardless, maybe he gets beaten up badly by Triple H, he's unable really to compete in the final match. But the fact that these two guys, Orton and Batista, just keep fighting each other leads to Bryan getting the opportunity to actually win the belt, and he does, and then goes on from there. Which would lead to quite a nice rivalry after WrestleMania, really, with these guys saying he didn't really beat us, we beat each other, and then he stole it from us, sort of thing, which leads into programs as Orton and Batista chasing the belts, as Bryan being the champion, which seems quite enjoyable. What was your thoughts on this match? I mean, like I said, the kendo stick here got a lot of love.
It's just an average match, really.
Yeah, it was.
I wouldn't particularly say that it was amazing. It was.
Yeah, it was what it was, wasn't it? So
that's it. It was a throwaway. It was a throwaway match with a kendo stick. Yeah,
exactly. And there was a lot of kendo stick love. That's why I obviously made that reference to Sandman earlier on. Obviously, they did not go to the lengths with a kendo stick. The Sandman did, but we'll stay as non-violent as we can on this show. short of sticking that kendo stick up people's asses, I think Sandman did everything you could with a kendo stick. So
Yeah, that's true.
yeah. Moving neatly on. Paul Heyman cut a promo. Normally, we put Heyman on the same regard as Bray Wyatt for week in, week out promos. This unfortunately was not as good. He didn't really cut a promo. He just basically introduced a video of The Undertaker looking very broken and old, which...
Yeah.
I mean, I like the video package itself, but, I mean, whenever Paul Heyman comes out...
Not a single bit of Punk.
No, none at all. There was one other FU to Punk during this show, which happened a little bit later on, but this was the first one.
Yeah.
There was no reference to the Punk match at
Well, there was
WrestleMania last year.
footage of Undertaker in the Punk match, and, like, at the end of it all, but there was just, like, no... Punk wasn't in it at all.
We got to think that the only two matches he's had with his hairstyle the way it is now was Triple H 2 and Punk. So they obviously had to have some some footage of him, during that time.
Recently.
I like the video package because the whole package surrounding Taker and Lesnar is that they have to build towards the belief that Lesnar might actually break the streak. It's very hard to do, but like video packages like these kind of help that along. So I thought it was fine, and making him look as if he's only just scraped past these guys where Brock Lesnar's been destroying everyone in his path. It makes sense, Brock Lesnar's big hulking behemoth beast, and yeah, I thought that the video package itself was pretty good. It helped towards building that disbelief that Undertaker is not just going to win all of his matches at Mania. The more they build that belief that this could actually happen, that his streak could be beaten, the better the match will be. That's
it.
Essentially down to it.
And I reckon we're going to get a good match. Like, I was a bit sceptical, but now it's sort of like I'm growing on the idea, and I was like, we're going to have a good match there.
Yeah, I think we can have a really good match. Like I said, we've said before that this actually has the potential to be one of the show stealers of the night. I mean, you could have Daniel Bryan having a huge payoff, but you could actually have this as one of the ones like, like the Rock and Hogan and Shawn Michaels, Undertaker, that kind of just sucked the life out of the crowd because it was that good, that they just weren't ready for anything else.
I'm sort of just thinking, like, or even sort of like a more recent one. Like, not necessarily a WrestleMania one, but like Punk Lesnar SummerSlam. Like, that was an amazing match, and that was a tiring match, even just to watch.
Yeah, it was one. A lot of people would say that and the Battleground match between Rhodes Brothers and the Shield basically tie in for best match of last year.
Yeah,
and I would agree. I'm a big fan of that Battleground match, but you can't look at that Punk and Lesnar match and not be impressed by both their work rate. And that put a lot of doubters to bed. I mean, Lesnar didn't exactly have 5-star matches since he came back, but he had a lot of his matches against Triple H. As soon as he got given someone new, by God, he rose to that challenge, didn't he? And he performed very, very well. That wasn't just CM Punk weaving his magic, which, I mean, we've been very critical of CM Punk's morality the last couple of weeks, but we can never question his ability in the ring. He is one of the best. But you need two to tango, and Brock Lesnar played his part very, very well, as best as he can. But yeah, a little bit sad that Paul Heyman didn't get more time on the mic, but... yeah.
They didn't need any more time on the mic. I think that video just...
I know, but...
I think that video actually summed it up better than Paul Heyman could have articulated it.
Yeah. I mean, he said that... I mean, last week was a really good promo from Heyman, but sometimes you need to give this guy a break from doing these promos. And he had one again with Main Event where he got basically choked out by The Undertaker, which is very odd to think of Undertaker appearing on Main Event, but he did. So there was more segments between the two.
Yeah, but what do you expect? Main Event's now live.
It's on the network, which is more important.
That's it.
So.
Which is the only problem. Like, this is going off onto like the oversaturation, but this is now it. It's like you get all these lesser people. It's like Main Event is my time to shine. Not anymore, because the main people are going to be on Main Event.
Back down to Superstars, you go.
Yeah, that's it.
Which is the show that airs midday over here on a weekend. I watched it today actually, so. And has all literally about half an hour of actual wrestling, half an hour of Raw recap. So it's a glorified Raw recap, that show.
Yeah.
We had Triple H and Stephanie have a bit of a lovers spat backstage.
And Triple H got told off.
Yeah, she got got put in his place, shall we say? She said that Triple H, when he wins I thought this very odd. When he wins the belt and goes on the road, it will be hard on the family. Aren't they always on the road anyway?
They're always at Raw.
Yeah.
So Well, I guess they're always there's a difference between always being at Raw and like turning up every show.
Tell that to The Rock as champion.
Yeah, but to be perfectly honest, we haven't had the authority by satellite yet.
Yeah,
So.
we could, yeah, maybe.
But occasionally we have they're not here and Kane's in charge.
Yeah,
Maddox. Where's Maddox?
I don't know. I don't really care.
It's like it's suddenly just like imagining just like. Yeah, boy. Brad.
Come on. Who's a good Maddox?
Yeah,
Who's a good
Stephanie
Maddox?
wants me.
Yeah, wagging his tail. That's it.
Brad can help.
Now, so I just thought that was a little bit odd, that they're already on the road.
Demasculate of him.
Yeah. It was a little bit of a demasculating thing. It kind of led up. It was another set-up promo to what happened later on in the show. The sort of dissension between Stephanie and Triple H. But that led into Fandango Goldust. This is interesting for reasons that the match itself wasn't very good.
It was more weird Goldust. That was good.
Yeah, Goldust played his part very well. Fandango had a few botches during this match, one of which did actually split Goldust open.
Yeah, no, but that head scissors. And then, it was the fact that it's like I watched it, I was like, oh, that must have hurt. And then he sandbagged the suplex. I was like, yeah, that hurt.
Yeah. Now, for Fandango still be relatively green after, almost a year past his debut at the last year's WrestleMania is just testament to how much time he actually gets on Raw to wrestle. He doesn't get that much time at all. When he does, it's in a gimmick match where he's dancing around a lot. Now, fair enough, he's not facing against Santino, which he's done the last month, so it's a little bit fresh, but Goldust was none too happy that he was injured after this match. He kicked the turnbuckle in disgust. He probably wasn't quite happy, and to his point, I can kind of agree with the guy. This may be one of Goldust's last singles matches of his career. He has turned back the hands of time, but he's not going to keep it up forever. Yeah. We know this. So to have one of his matches go up, be a little bit of a botch like this, and himself get injured because of that, not really something which was his fault.
Yeah.
I can understand his little mini flip out at the end of the match. In fact, I prefer more wrestlers do that if they're upset with it,
Yeah.
But yeah, he looked legitimately hurt. He did look very hurt after this match, so hopefully he's not that badly injured. And he didn't exactly take any worse of a bump than Cody Rhodes did jumping off that damn steel cage. So.
Oh god, yeah, that's true.
How much longer do you think Goldust has got left in him?
I don't know. I wouldn't say long.
No, same here.
As much as I'd really love to see, because do you remember there was the whole speculation that we'd get a road brother versus brother at WrestleMania,
which doesn't.
And then that whole speculation just got thrown out the window. It's I'd love to see a Cody Goldust match.
I would. I really would. Goldust obviously would be the one turning heel. But that would be quite a great way for Goldust to... I mean, you could do a whole thing, he turns heel for the match, but at the end they embrace together, and that's the end of Goldust's career. Can't really get much more story than that, but it looks like both these guys are going to be in that 30-man Battle Royal, which is a bit of a kick in the teeth for Goldust, really, but...
Do you know what I think? It's just I want a WrestleMania payout.
Yeah, it seems like everyone's getting it in this WrestleMania. Why not WrestleMania 30?
I'm starting to think how many actual matches we're going to get.
I think we're running the risk now of the actual show getting a little bit congested, but we'll see how it goes from there.
Yeah, that's it.
But yeah, in terms of Goldust, before anyone kind of gets upset at the fact we're saying that Goldust doesn't have long left, we're just saying that objectively, he is a great wrestler. He's actually better now, I think, than he ever has been.
Yeah.
But and he's in great shape, so he can still go on for a little while longer. But I mean, age catches up with you after a while. He is getting on a little bit, Goldust, and we'll have a little bit longer with him, and then I'd like him to take a rest and heal up his bones because he's no spring chicken. As much as he creates the illusion that he is, because I mean he's performed so admirably over the last 12 months.
And then the face paint comes off, and then you realise, oh.
Yep, he's like I said, he's no spring chicken. He's no Cody Rhodes in terms of youth. Cody Rhodes has still got time.
That's it.
But fair enough to the guy. I've got big respect for him to come back and just reinvent himself in terms of ring ability. We're big fans of Goldust here. And I know you still want his T-shirt, damn it. So
I do.
Yeah.
I need it.
Yeah, exactly. And you went as far ahead to name him as one of your top wrestlers in wrestling at the moment.
I did.
Now you say that though. I mean, I can't say anything in terms of his in-ring ability.
I think it's just because he was weird, and everyone loves weird.
Yeah.
It's a bit odd. Yeah, as 44, I'd say he's good.
Yeah, he's getting there. And I don't see him being the likes of Hulk Hogan, just not refusing to kind of say, okay, this is it, sort of thing. You can still get a couple of years out of this guy, which is fine, but nothing more. Nothing more than that.
Oh, yeah.
Now, the particular segment that came after this was Kane. He came to the ring. He was talking about the Daniel Bryan occupation on last week in Memphis and said that there's only one man in Memphis with that amount of contacts to get that stuff done, and that would be Jerry the King Lawler. And without any evidence, he called out the Shield to bring Lawler up to the ring and basically set him up for a bit of a beating.
Yeah.
Which I thought, as Kane apparently does this best for business, I wonder about Jerry Hart having a heart attack and dying in the ring would be best for business.
Yeah, it's like...
Yeah, there you go.
Oh.
I'm sure a triple powerbomb wouldn't do too well for the guy's heart.
Yeah, that's true.
He is back wrestling matches now, Jerry the King Lawler, so...
He recently won over... Oh, Gangrel.
Yeah, he was...
Wow. I was reading that, I was just like, wow.
Yeah.
Gangrel's got out of the porn industry?
He was in the porn industry?
That was the last I heard.
We actually trained in a federation that used to dabble in Gangrel quite a bit, if you remember.
And that's where I heard about it.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, I heard like, bless John, rest his soul, and all that. I was literally just like, he doesn't wrestle anymore. He's just doing cocaine and then German porn. I was just like, oh, great.
John Copping, what a man. Rest in peace. I'll put my drink up to him now. No one obviously that listens to this podcast would know John Copping, but he's part of the reason we're here, so a little drink for him. So, yeah, kind of getting back into my notes here because my eyes are watering like a son of a bitch. Yeah, Kane set him up for a beating, and before anything could happen, Seth Rollins took the mic and said, Daniel Bryan's not coming, we always do what's best for business. They turned their back on... Well, there's technically Jerry Lawler, which is saying they're going to protect him, and they attacked Kane. They officially turned face. I'm going to say this is their face turn.
Yeah.
It's been going for a while anyway. And with any great group or particular wrestler that is so great at being a heel that they get over with the fans, they will eventually turn face. It happens.
Well,
we're looking at the fact of... Yeah, but the best example I can give is Stone Cold Steve Austin. His character technically is very, very heel, but he got over really face really quick because everyone liked him as a heel. So that's the
Undertaker.
Yeah, same thing.
Really, really heel. Oh, it's all dark and morbid, and he's all about death, and it's like his I think it's the funeral tune.
Yeah.
Sort of like, and everything about him just screams heel, but everyone loves him.
Yeah, I mean, he was brought in to be this unconquerable heel that the likes of Hulk Hogan and stuff was supposed to be facing off against. But wow, that quickly turned, didn't it? Because fans really got behind him. And that's the mark of a great heel. Eventually you have to turn, and that's what the Shield have done. They've earned that heel face turn thing. That happens. Only with the best heels that happens. So, they attacked Kane, gave him the triple powerbomb. This is essentially what we're hearing, setting up a 6-man tag match at WrestleMania. Having the Shield against Kane and the New Age Outlaws. You heard it. The New Age Outlaws. Because apparently they're the ones that will be helping, the Authority. Makes sense as storyline.
Friends of Triple H,
Yeah. Is this a match I want to see at WrestleMania? No. I still want to see the triple threat match between these guys. And I think that would be something that would be really interesting and really special for WrestleMania. And you can still do it with these guys being a group. It could still work.
See, the thing is, the last 6-man tag match that I remember seeing with the Shield and Kane on the opposite team, I don't think we're going to get that again.
No, not with the New Age Outlaws. You're talking of that fantastic match of the year, TLC yes. 2012, I think that is now. Yeah, it is 2012.
Yeah.
Ryback, Team Hell No against.
Faced Ryback and Team Hell No versus the Shield. Yeah.
We ain't getting that match. Oh hell no, we're not getting that match. Unfortunate, but we're not.
I might watch that back tonight.
Yeah. One of those matches that you can go back and watch, and it's just as good again.
Just to watch Seth Rollins try and figure out where he is.
Rest in peace, Seth Rollins. I'm still sure he's still suffering a concussion from now because Jesus Christ, that was my hell of a fall.
Well, because sometimes he's the quietest member of the Shield, and then like this week, for example, he didn't shut up.
Yeah, exactly.
He pretty much did all the talking, other than like Ambrose laughing and sort of Reigns saying, "Believe in that."
Yeah. Believe in the Shield, which he always says anyway. So
yeah,
becoming the mouthpiece, which is quite odd, but which he has been. He's been on the mic quite a bit recently, and his work over the last couple of weeks has been tremendous. So good for the guy. I'm no longer really that worried for Seth Rollins, I have to admit. I was before, I'm thinking when this group breaks up, yeah, Ambrose is going to be a great heel. He's going to be one of those guys that the top guy can go up against and beat, and he can still be a heel and everything like that. Be this unhinged character, that works well. You've got Reigns, which is the next big thing, but where does Rollins fit? I'm no longer worried about Rollins. I think he's going to be just fine. And his actions have put him in that position. So
I think now I was read somewhere it was just like that we're going to be getting face Reigns and Ambrose Rollins in a heel tag team.
Yeah, I can see that happening.
Yeah,
but one thing we know for sure, regardless of where it goes, Reigns is going face. There is no doubt in that. And part of him getting over with the crowd is part of the reason why they've gone face as well. But just the general awesomeness of this, if that's a word, of this faction made them go this way. And eventually, I'm sure that the Wyatts will have to go a weird sense of face as it goes down the line. Because people just love them being the heel. So yeah, that sets up that match. Is that a match we want to see at WrestleMania? No, it's not, but it looks like that's what we're going to get. We'll talk more about that when it comes more into fruition. It may not be what we get. They may change things around, but it certainly seems that way. It certainly seems that that's the program they're building towards. We had the tag team match here next. It was the Divas tag match. Did you skip this one this week, Matt?
I didn't.
Oh, wow.
I actually watched it.
Okay.
And I regret it.
Okay, yeah. This match wasn't too great, was it?
It's
really?
probably even worse. It's the fact there's like an oversaturation of divas, considering we had the Bellas on commentary.
Yeah. This particular match, I mean, when Naomi and AJ in the ring, things picked up a bit, but apart from that, not really much.
But I don't mind seeing Cameron take a stiff clothesline every now and then. That I enjoyed.
Yeah, that's it. Obviously, Naomi came back. She's got I think it was like a fractured orbital socket, which sounds lovely, really. But she sported a bedazzled eye patch, and good on her for getting back in the ring, even though with that. So I've got a good.
Well, I mean, the thing is, like, she must clearly be 100%, but she must be 100%. Otherwise, they wouldn't clear her to wrestle.
Yeah, I get
But
you.
like, I personally wouldn't want to wrestle with an eye patch.
This close to WrestleMania, you do what you got to do to get in that match.
Yeah, fair enough. But it's like, kind of need that depth perception.
Yeah.
Especially considering she does a split leg moonsault.
Yeah.
It's just like, you kind of want to know where you're going with that.
I guess though, I mean, Naomi isn't Cameron. Cameron doesn't wrestle. She doesn't wrestle well. She's clumsy. Naomi is a good wrestler. We know this. We've seen her wrestle. So she may have done that move over and over again. You do that move enough, you know where that's going to land. You don't even have to look. You just do it. But yeah, this close to WrestleMania, you do what you got to do to get in that title picture. You do what you do to get in that match. And obviously, she's back in the thing. Is that what you do? Is that like your
Mark Henry? That's what I do.
That's what she does to get in there. Yeah. The one thing I would say about this, I mean, like I said, Naomi did get the pinfall victory here after that springboard, split-legged splash, whatever you want to call it.
The thing I'd hate is the fact, like they actually, I think it was like JBL, was just like shades of RVD. It's like, oh, don't do that.
Or John Morrison,
don't put them in the same. It's probably like paint with the same brush. It's like, oh.
I've got a little bit more respect for Naomi. She is good. But the only thing I'd be a little bit worried about, like I said, is that they're having a lot of the Total Divas cast get wins over AJ Lee. So they might be building up to maybe a multi-diva match for the belt at WrestleMania, where they have the likes of Nikki Bella and Naomi and Natalya and AJ Lee in the ring for the belt. Just to reference this a little bit at the end, because we don't know what's going to happen with this particular storyline, but AJ Lee and Tamina did have a spat after this match. So they may even have Tamina have a slot in that match as well. The thing is, if it was a one-on-one match with AJ Lee against any of the girls I just said, my money would be on AJ Lee to lose. But because it's a multi-diva tag match, for me, I'm actually going to put my money on AJ Lee to retain.
Yeah.
Ironically. And the reason being is for that is because...
I think it's just like a further proof that she could do it.
Yeah. Now, I said that if they're going to do the big sort of Divas payoff, which I thought they were going to do with Natalia, where they have on Total Divas, I had it that she was didn't even get onto the show last year, but this year she wins the belt, at WrestleMania, the big payoff moment for Total Divas. But if you've got all these girls in the ring, how do you pick which one wins the belt? It doesn't make sense. The only thing that really makes sense is for AJ Lee to retain, for all these girls kind of fighting against each other and not making it work, and then continues the storyline and she continues her title reign. So if that is the plan, they've had no actual plan, no actual reference on what matches they're going to do. There's only 2 Raws now until WrestleMania, so they're going to have to start getting a match down soon if they are going to do a Divas match. But we'll see what it goes. It just seems like everyone is getting victories over AJ Lee, and the only one to actually have a title match was Natalia, and they did have a great match, but I'd bank on Natalia having another match if they're going to have something involved with her at WrestleMania.
I hope so.
We'll see how it goes from there. Mr. T was inducted to the celebrity wing of the Hall of Fame. The celebrity wing of the Hall of Fame is a little bit of a joke, but I understand. I for once I can actually agree with them inducting Mr. T. When you look back on,
I'm happy with Mr. T being in it.
Yeah. I mean, when you look at celebrities that actually made an actual impact into, especially like WrestleMania as a whole, as they're doing the 30 years of WrestleMania, then you can't look far from a guy that was in the first main event of WrestleMania. So now I know that they've tried to get Mr. T into the Hall of Fame before, and he has refused. So they must have come up with something to get him to get in, or the timing was right for Mr. T, or he felt like he was more worthy now. I don't know along those lines, but only Mr. T can tell you that. But yeah, he was in that first match, the tag team match where he teamed up with Hulk Hogan, and he was also at WrestleMania 2. He had the match against Roddy Piper. So when you actually think about guys that were integral to the start of WrestleMania, Mr. T is up. He's in that bracket.
Definitely.
Of bringing non-wrestling fans into WrestleMania and making that WrestleMania 1 such a huge success. Now, it didn't all go down onto his shoulders. I'm not that naive, but it sure as damn helped it. So, and I pity for the commenter who decides to comment against Mr. T not being worthy of a Hall of Fame.
That's the one thing I'm just hoping for, is the fact that I'm going to watch the Hall of Fame ceremony, and all I want is just to hear "I pity the fool."
Yeah.
It's almost as much as every time I see Ron Simmons, I want to hear "damn."
It's gonna happen. You know it is. It has to. But yeah. Now, whoever's going to induct him, I know that you've got 2 big candidates. You've got Roddy Piper, who he's got a lot of history in the ring with, or you've got Hulk Hogan, who obviously he teamed up with. Either or is good. I see it probably more being Hogan rather than Roddy Piper inducting him in. But in terms of celebrities, I mean, you've got a lot of celebrities in there that have no right to be in a Hall of Fame in terms of wrestling, that they may have made one actual...
Really? What about Tyson?
Tyson, you've got...
Tyson being in there makes sense.
I think you had like Bob Uecker, who was like the first... He was involved in one segment and he got into the Hall of Fame. Which is a little bit... That's...
I don't remember.
Yeah, that was remember the guy who got like throttled by Andre the Giant? There's always a lot of they always do that in the old WrestleMania stuff, of him getting choked by Andre the Giant. He was involved in like in a few segments, but nothing really that special, and he's in the Hall of Fame. Now I've got no doubt that he's something big in America. We don't know that much over here, but come on, Mr. T is much more worthy of him being inducted in than anyone in that they currently have in there at the moment. It just makes sense for it to be that way. So we had a 8-man tag team match. They've taken the Diva slot of having multi-guy tag matches now. They've now taken the Diva slot. Ryback, Sandow, and Del Rio went against Big E, Mark Henry, Big Show, and Dolph Ziggler. Yep. Dolph Ziggler looking a little bit out of sorts here, being with all the
tiny
300-pounders that are around him. This match was meh at best. It just set up the 30-man Battle Royal at Mania.
Yeah, it was literally just like, these people are going to be in the Battle Royal, and that was about it. That was the sole purpose.
And as you would expect, the faces did get the win. There's not really much me and Matt can really say about this. It was...
it did its job.
Yeah. It's there to get these guys built up for Mania for that match, and to get them all going for that Andre the Giant trophy, which by the sounds of commentary, whoever wins it's going to have to carry it around for 12 months. So the new Money in the Bank briefcase is here. It's going to be a big trophy with Andre the Giant.
Yeah.
That's as much as I'm a big fan of Andre the
just for
Giant.
sheer comedic value, can it be the size of Andre the Giant?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and they have to try and lumber that thing around with them.
It's like, oh, you got to get a flight. You got to pay for 2 tickets.
You imagine having Dolph Ziggler win that, and he becomes tag team champions with the trophy of Andre the Giant.
Just tips them over for the pin.
Yeah, there you go. That's it. So yeah, not really much we can say about it. It was what it was. It was a filler match. That's all it really is. Bray Wyatt was in action this week, which is quite rare, and he was in action against Kofi Kingston, which is good for me because I get to see him eat the guy. Cannibalize him. No, obviously he did not cannibalize him on there, but they showed a video.
Honest, I literally the moments like Kofi was in the ring, and then it showed Wyatt. I was just like, Kofi's going to get hurt.
Yeah, it's going to be the epitome of what is a squash match. It essentially was. Though I do want to make some... Huh?
Before this match, what did you think to the video package before?
That's what I was just leading up to, actually, yeah. The apparently Bray Wyatt seems to be an Eminem fan because he used a video package about Cena's legacy, and Eminem was the video package here. I rather enjoyed it, and I think it was really good. In fact, I think it was good enough to be played just before their match at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
So it seems odd that they would do it here, but at the end of the day, you use these video packages to try and get these guys involved in the storyline to get people to buy the pay-per-view. That's how you do it. So I don't really have much issue with them.
It generally sort of made him seem weirder.
Yeah, it did
somehow. Yeah. I don't know how you can do that, but it somehow made it happen.
Yeah, exactly. I think it was nicely done, and the fact they did it after his blowing out of the lantern was good timing. I liked it. Yeah. So the match itself, as we said, I mean, Kingston got a little bit of offenses in at the start, and then it quickly changed. Wyatt basically destroyed the guy, as you would expect. Now, one thing I will give, I'm actually going to say something positive about Kofi Kingston.
What's that?
You're in shock, man. I know you are.
That's it. I can't comprehend it.
Yeah. I will say that he sold Sister Abigail like $1 million. He really did land that looking very decent and deadly. So, props to Kofi Kingston.
For?
Selling Sister Abigail. In the way he did.
Yes, actually.
Yeah.
That's yeah, no, I will agree with that.
Yeah.
He bounced very well.
Yeah, he did. No, he's a very bouncy guy, and he bounced well. There you go, something positive.
Whee!
Yeah, there you
Said
are.
something positive about him.
It won't last. So yeah, there you go. That's that. So yeah, fair enough. You'd expect this match to go the way it did. It wasn't that entertaining. It is entertaining to see Bray Wyatt smash Kofi Kingston, but I mean, there's not really any point in this. Obviously, they just want to remind everyone.
It wasn't
how good he
unnecessary.
is in the
It's
ring.
yeah, look what he's capable of. Whack.
That would prove to actually be the main event. Funny enough, of the entirety of Raw.
That's it.
And the fact just Bray Wyatt wrestling, they've turned that into a special attraction now. Is just kudos to how well they've booked the Wyatts since they've come in. So kudos to WWE. We're quite critical of them sometimes, but the way they've done the Shield and the Wyatts has been almost done like a master stroke. So fair play to them.
Oh yeah.
Daniel Bryan and Triple H had their little chat in the ring, and it was a little chat in the ring. One of the things that I dislike, and we've been very, very full of praise for Daniel Bryan as he came in. I'm going to say something negative. This is quite shocking now. There's something positive about Kofi Kingston. I'm going to say something negative about Daniel Bryan. This is an odd podcast. One thing I don't like about the Daniel Bryan character, you think of all the stuff that's happened to Daniel Bryan that's been done. They've been playing loads of video packages of him getting beaten up by Triple H personally, about him sending people to beat up Daniel Bryan. The guy doesn't seem to have like any sort of killer instinct in his character. He just stands there and listens.
Just smiles about it all.
Yeah. As if it doesn't bother him, and it's a little bit annoying. I think that if you're going to have... I said last week that this should be a blood feud, and that's the reason I have to give props to Triple H this week for making this a blood feud. So, fantastic. The whole sort of segment of this, I'll explain it before we get into it, is that he told him he respected... Triple H told Bryan that he respected him. He went off, got chastised by Steph, who sent police officers to the ring to arrest Daniel Bryan. They cuffed him, and then Triple H dropped the bombshell, as the old...
They weren't police officers. Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun. So Triple H proceeds then to give Daniel Bryan quite the uncomfortable beating. The one thing I would say before we talk about this is that impersonating a police officer is actually a crime, so all those guys probably, if they're going fully into
Need to be
storyline,
careful.
probably need to go to jail right now. There was one line actually there as well when Triple H was praising Daniel Bryan, he said that one of the things that he did well is that he didn't take his ball and he didn't go home.
Yeah.
That is one obvious smack bang slap in the face to CM Punk.
That was like a proper sort of half expecting him to sort of say that. Look at the camera, wink, and just carry on. It was just sort of like, yes, everyone knows, because they even cued a Punk chant after it.
Exactly, yeah. And it was a dig at him. It was confirmed by the dirt sheets, but you don't need the dirt sheets to confirm it. You know that was a dig at him. And Triple H was probably left with a headache after CM Punk left. So I think he's well within his rights to have a little dig at the guy. He's all the best wrestling storylines come out of actual genuine feelings. If Triple H feels pissed off with Daniel Bryan, that's going to lead to better promos if he references it. Not Daniel Bryan, CM Punk. He's going to make better promos if he talks about that. So he went on anyway to give Daniel Bryan quite the beating, which they cut out of Superstars, which was very odd. Watch Superstars today. They had him cuffed, and then they split to the end where he was just standing over Daniel Bryan. There was no beating, so it was like, okay. But yeah, the beating went on for quite a while. I mean, this segment lasted a long time, him getting demolished. And like I said, this should be a blood feud by now. These guys should want to kill each other. And the fact is that Triple H is doing that makes me kind of give props to him. Daniel Bryan just should know by now this is what you should expect. Don't ask, just attack. You've got your match.
Yeah.
And
especially
Steph
because it looks like Triple H just like, no.
Steph looked like
easy.
Steph looked like she was on the brink of orgasm during this, so...
It's like the whole thing was just getting her wet. It's just like, oh, God.
Yeah.
Steph, you dirty bitch.
Liking it all the time, that's how they do things. So, like I said, I was actually quite a big fan of this particular segment. Like I said, this needs to be a blood feud. These two guys want to kill each other at WrestleMania. It should be at that point right now. And they've basically pressed the fast forward button over these last 2 weeks to bring this rivalry up to par where it should be. Now, if Daniel Bryan comes out next week, he comes out with a big smile, then he's going to be suffering what I call the John Cena effect, which will make me not like him a little bit. I mean, I'm a big fan of his.
It didn't hurt. Yay!
And then Triple H comes out and he's just like, oh, this is just what I do. But then Daniel Bryan's like, okay, that's fine, And it's a little bit like, this guy just beat the shit out of you last week. Attack him. Do what you need to do.
That's it. Running knee.
Yeah, do it. So
I don't know. I did see on like a few dirt sheets. It's like, oh, and now Daniel Bryan's got an injured shoulder. Oh, would you look at that? To be perfectly honest, I read that before I watched the assault, and I'm sort of thinking, that could be real.
Yeah, it's not though. We know that.
No, I know, but it was very like you said, it was quite an awkward beatdown.
Yeah,
and that's exactly what it was.
And it needed to be. Personally, I do believe that this segment was nicely well placed. Like, imagine if they just finished it where Triple H walked out of the ring after saying "I respect you" and they finished Raw on there.
Oh no, I wasn't expecting that. I was like the fact that. I think it's just the length of it all and to the extremes that it went to.
Yeah, there was a lot of time left on the show, and they filled it with that beating.
With Triple H beating an injured Bryan, yeah.
Exactly. So yeah, like I said, these two. What I'd want at WrestleMania is for Bryan and Triple H to go a good amount of time, and for Triple H to give Bryan a bit of quite a decimating. That these two guys get destroyed by each other, and then by the time that the actual main event rolls around. There's not much left of Bryan left, so he can come in and he has to play, he has to wrestle intelligently. He can't do that much, and still comes out with the win, but it sells the fact that he had to go through Raw just to get into that match.
Yeah. He earned to get there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's the way it goes. So all in all, as the show as a whole, I thought it was pretty decent, especially for one that's in that fabled slot of in the middle of pay-per-views. This is
the
like
halfway
smack bang.
point.
Yeah, this is smack bang in the middle of it. So in terms of that, it follows the trends of pretty decent Raws over the last couple of weeks. We're being entertained, Matt. Were you entertained by this Raw?
I have been entertained by this Raw.
Yes. Last couple of Raws have been pretty decent. I can't argue. There's been obviously a few odd bits, but I mean overall in terms of show quality, as the build up to WrestleMania continues, it's been pretty good. I can't really fault it that much.
We didn't have Hogan, so that's kind of a good thing.
Yeah. I mean, you know what? When Hogan comes back, it's still pretty decent. He came back last week.
True.
They're using him sparingly, like almost like a week on, week off, which is probably the best way to do it. And then you get the big payoff for him at WrestleMania. As long as he doesn't stick around too much, his welcome will be will be still there, unlike the New Age Outlaws, which outlasted their welcome very quickly, sort of thing.
Yeah.
So, overall, I'll give this particular show a thumbs up. We don't give scores here. We don't give a number out of 10 because it's just silly.
Because we wouldn't help ourselves, and we'd give everything a 4 out of 10.
Yeah, just in honour of Bret Hart. Yeah, exactly. But the only review score that we give this is: should you watch it, and should you leave it? You should watch this. It was interesting. It was good. It was worth watching. So. That being said, is there anything else that you want to talk about Raw before we move on to our Superstar Spotlight for this week?
Raw, no, I mean, I sort of quite enjoyed Batista, just sort of I haven't quit everything. It's like, well, yeah, you did. Everyone remembers your massive tantrum in a wheelchair.
Yeah, with the black eyes and the sling and everything.
Yeah, it's like, you quit.
Doddering around in the wheelchair.
You screamed it.
Yeah, exactly.
A lot.
It's there for the world to see, Batista. You're not fooling anyone. That's it. So, yeah.
I think it was quite good. I think it was kind of good with his whole, this was a big mistake coming back, sort of setting the seeds of just ooh, is Batista not happy?
Yeah.
But then that's it.
So...
Yeah, it goes with the heel turn, especially considering going with the whole opening segment. It's I didn't come back to have a triple threat match. I came back to do this because I wanted this. And it went with the whole sort of Triple H's. I'm sick of Hollywood movie stars telling me what they want.
And listen, we know that when Batista came back, he wanted to be champion. There's no other way of talking about it.
Comes back.
Yeah.
Nobody should go into wrestling, or especially into the WWE, and just go, I'm happy just to be there.
Which there's too many people on the roster that are, unfortunately.
Yeah.
You want people to be trying to scratch and claw their way up to becoming WWE champion one day. But you look at the Kofi Kingstons, you look at a lot of other people on the roster that are just happy to be there every week, and they put their smile on, they're happy, they're everything. No, you should want to get that far, but unfortunately they don't. WWE has a very strong issue with a lot of wrestlers doing that at the moment, and I would release them and get a little bit of fire under their asses because they're too safe.
Yeah.
Personally. We'll move on to our Superstar Spotlight for this week. If you're just new to the podcast, each week, if it's not a prediction or a review of the pay-per-view, which sometimes we just do anyway as a separate video, we do alternating weeks. We do a Superstar Spotlight, which we look over a wrestler that is on the end of his career. Or we do a topic of the week, which is either asked by you guys in the comments or questions, or we just think it up ourselves, something we've actually genuinely wanted to speak a little bit more about in depth over the last 2 weeks.
That's true.
This week is Superstar Spotlight. We are looking closely into the career of Christian. Now, as we know of now, he's kind of languishing by basically getting beaten up by Sheamus each week. Or doing the attacking of Sheamus each week, but he loses a lot of matches, shall we say?
Hey, he got beaten up by Orton a lot.
Yeah, a lot.
It's like the last time round when he was still going for, I just want one more match.
That's it, yeah. He's having a lot more matches now than just one, so...
Oh, yeah.
So let's go through the guy's rap sheet anyway, his title rap sheet. He is a 2-time World Heavyweight Champion.
Yep.
A 4-time Intercontinental Champion, and astonishingly a 9-time Tag Team Champion, 7 of which was with his famous tag team partner Edge.
Who was the other ones with?
With Lance Storm and Chris Jericho, I believe.
Storm. Oh, what? When they were the Un-Americans?
Yeah, well, they're basically uber Canadian sort of thing. Yeah, essentially. So when you look at that rap sheet, obviously he's got a few TNA title wins under his belt there. I think he won the TNA title 2 or 3 times. He was in TNA for quite a while. But that
was the grey area I mentioned earlier. It's just and then he went to TNA, and we don't know anything other than that.
Well, I've done my research. I know a little bit about his time in TNA. I didn't watch him in TNA, but he obviously went in search of being the main event guy. But we'll get there anyway.
Yeah.
If we'll go from the start to the end as we always do. There isn't as much to talk about with his career as there is the likes of Triple H, just because there is a lot of stuff that we did in the last Superstar Spotlight with Triple H that kind of is relevant to today, and just because of the of where he is in the business. But regardless, he was born and raised in Ontario, Canada. He had a legitimate childhood friendship with Edge. He wasn't just friends in storyline. He was childhood friends with Edge. He was.
That's it.
They went to high school together.
Mhm.
So kudos to them. They've kept a friendship going all the way through wrestling, which is quite astonishing. A lot of these friendships, especially over that era of wrestling, didn't actually last too long. You look at the likes of
It was definitely had a brotherhood thing going on rather than sort of like I'd drop you off of the wet like I'd drop you quicker than anything. Like if it meant furthering myself.
Yeah.
And they didn't have that. Like it was always sort of a mutual. I'm here with you. We're going to get this done together, sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean that type of wrestling you had. I mean, the exact people they would sail their grandma down the river to get a title shot, sort of thing. Edge and Christian looked out for each other quite a lot, and it was strange for that era because wrestlers didn't really do that. So kudos to them. Edge more than Christian, I'd say. When we look at the fact that Edge actually got into WWE first, and then he put in a good word in for Christian to get snapped up. So without Edge's sort of say so, it's questionable whether Christian would have ever gotten as far as he did. Their first foray into wrestling was part of a tag team. They were part of the Brood, talk about Gangrel that we talked earlier on.
Yeah.
His German porn aside. So, yeah, it was basically a stable. If you guys newer watchers to WWE, you probably wouldn't even know what the Brood were. They were very
probably
gothic.
Never even heard of Gangrel.
Yeah.
To be fair.
But they were very gothic, very dark, in that sort of era, attitude era, that they kind of fit straight in. Tag team, that they were coming with a chance of blood.
If the Lost Boys was a tag team.
That's the best way to explain it, isn't it, really?
I'd say with Lost Boys rather than Twilight.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, they were still a little bit Twilighty back in those days, but you can't out Twilight, can you? Really?
No, that's it.
So yeah, they got relative success there as a group. I mean that actual Brood years didn't last that long. It was maybe about 18 months that they're actually in the Brood. It makes it seem as longer that they were in there, but it really wasn't. They weren't as part of that group for very, very long. They swapped their gothic personas into their 5-second pose persona, where they would do this 5-second pose for fans for the benefit of those with flash photography.
And the big glasses and the stupid hats.
And the stupid hats, that's it. And they would do these poses and everything. It was during this time that they started to win a lot of tag team championships. This was it'd actually be quite ironic to actually say that the tag team championship was not Christian's first belt. It was actually the light heavyweight belt that he won first. And then he won his his huge set of tag team belts. So they were tagging up for a very long time in an era that was very strong in tag teams. You look in their work with the likes of the Dudley Boys and the Hardys.
The Hardys, yep.
That all culminated.
The fact that they were all part of the very first TLC match.
It was, yeah. Now, the TLC match they eventually probably more known for is the one at WrestleMania X7, which wasn't the first, I believe.
Which
it
they
was.
shouldn't. No,
but that was the better
first.
One. The X7 one was the best one. It was a show stealer match. These guys performed very, very well, and they walked out champions.
I'd say the very first at SummerSlam.
Yeah, but the one at X7 is the one that they're most renowned for. All their video clips.
I wouldn't say the better one.
All the video clips that involve the TLC match they had are at X7. Yeah, so. So that match is referred to as one of the sort of the one of the matches that made that event one of the best WrestleManias of all time, and rightly so. And they both performed very, very well. Edge probably more so than Christian, but that's kind of a theme that goes around Christian's career. He's always been one step behind Edge all the way through.
Yeah.
Shortly after that, they obviously won a bunch of tag team belts, but Edge turned face shortly after winning the King of the Ring. It was actually during the King of the Ring he won that he kind of was turning face. It was almost like Roman Reigns. He was heel, but he was part of a face, but he was part of a heel faction. So, still getting that. That led to the inevitable and obligatory breakup of the pair. That they had a short run-in with each other. Edge went off and started his singles career, but Christian was destined to stay in the tag team hunt. He won the belts with the likes of Lance Storm and Chris Jericho. They were his two wins without Edge. So he was still, for a couple of years, stuck in that tag team limbo while Edge was going off winning IC belts. And, obviously we know Edge's career from there on out. He went off and won the WWE Championship and had quite a good career for himself. All the while, Christian was struggling to really make a name for himself. He only really got out of the tag team sort of mold in 2004. when, if you remember, he birthed his Captain Charisma gimmick, which is one that he still kind of
Yes.
uses today. And he had his bodyguard Tyson Tomko, if you remember Tyson Tomko.
Oh, God. Yeah.
Big tattooed guy.
Oh, I remember Tomko.
Yeah, he looked like a scary guy. I have to give him props. He looked like a good bodyguard.
I missed Tomko, but then he went off to TNA.
He did. He wasn't exactly gifted as a wrestler, was he, Tomko? He was a big,
so.
scary guy. He was almost like Mason Ryan. He's big, muscled. I mean, I'd say Tomko looks scarier than Mason Ryan, but never really gifted in the ring, and that was ultimately his downfall. So yeah, I mean, together. I mean, Christian garnered a decent enough of heel. He was never really going to break any huge strides into the main event picture with that gimmick, and he didn't. And because of that, a lot of the frustration of him not getting into that next section probably led to his departure from WWE, and then his long stint with TNA.
That's it.
Back when it was the
Christian
edgy,
Cage.
yeah, back when it was the edgy alternates product, not WWE.
Back when there was a 6-sided ring.
Yeah. It was. I mean, Christian Cage was there all the way. All of his time in TNA was the 6-sided ring, and he won the heavyweight belt very quickly after actually getting into the company. TNA, they were very soon to put the strap on him, which probably made him feel like $1 million, made him quite happy.
Which is what TNA did, though. It's just sort of like, as another company that you could go to, and it's like, you're a former WWE guy, you're good enough for a belt. Have a belt.
Yeah, there you go, and have it, and they give it to you almost straight away. They did that with the likes of RVD. Kurt Angle,
Booker.
Yeah, I don't know if Booker was actually champion.
Booker played champ.
Oh, did he? Okay, well there you go. So they've done it a lot, really. And Christian was no different. He was sort of one of the first, though, to do it. So you've got to give him props for that. So yeah, he enjoyed relative success there. Obviously got a lot of heavyweight title wins, but it's never going to amount to a big actual title win in WWE, the premier company that they were. He spent about 3 years in TNA, then he came back to join with the failing ECW brand. ECW was already well failing by the time that Christian got there.
Yeah. By that point, didn't ECW have their that silver belt?
Yes. It
was WWE ECW.
Yeah, it was. It was the bad ECW. It wasn't really. It was the shell of its former self.
Bobby
and it was
Lashley's your champion ECW.
Yeah, and it was long gone from the vision that Paul Heyman had of rebirthing ECW.
Hey, we got punked through that, so
we did. Yeah,
not all bad.
But that's pretty much all we got from that, really. And you look at the likes of what else came out of ECW, and yeah, I mean they eventually changed it to NXT, and you look at how good NXT is now, which we would never have said that looking back at the seasons of NXT they had to begin with, where they made it more of a game show.
Where it's just like that was just ridiculous.
It was, but ECW kind of started that they wanted developmental, and they turned ECW into that. Which was a bad idea on that point. They could never really go as hardcore as they needed to, not with that PG outlook that they soon adopted.
Yeah.
And it failed that. It wasn't Christian's fault. By the time he got into that and he started winning the belt, that brand was dying already. It was on life support, so you can't really say anything much about that. But he got the ECW title win. He was still alongside Edge as Edge was winning belts, and then the big news came. Edge had to retire, and he retired as champion. It opened the slot for Christian to be entered to face Del Rio for the World Heavyweight Championship at Extreme Rules.
As a tribute sort of thing.
Yeah. And he won the belt. He won his first Heavyweight Championship in WWE. It was a big thing, and he lost it on the SmackDown straight after to Randy Orton. So he had less than 5 days as champion. So almost like Dolph Ziggler's style, that you never really got the chance to enjoy having the belt around his waist. That led to him having a heel turn where he tried to get the belt back, and he did. He won it by DQ. He's one of the only people to win a belt by disqualification. He was part of the thing there when Randy Orton kicked him in the balls, and he got the title that way. But it was soon back around Randy Orton's waist. They did have fantastic matches, Christian and Orton, but it was almost like the Sheamus rivalry that they have now, where no one really expected Christian to come out better than Randy Orton in that program, and we don't expect him to come out better than Sheamus in the program he's in now.
No,
so it's all good on his resume to be a 2-time world champion, but really, did he get any sort of stint with the belt? No. Nothing longer than a month, anyway.
It's unfortunate that the fact that he almost has that whole Like, you know, when they mentioned that Jack Swagger was once the world heavyweight champion.
Yeah, I think that you
But it
have
was
to
just
mention
like,
Christian in the
was
same breath.
he?
Yeah. Yeah.
And Christian's in that similar thing where it was for such a short amount of time. It's like, I'm a 2-time. Dude, I don't remember you being a 1-time.
Yeah, exactly. And it made his title reigns feel a little bit less meaningful. And the belt back then was so
unfortunately,
devalued.
it's something that we mentioned it earlier with the Raw recap. It's the fact that the commentary team loved that.
Yeah.
It's just like, but didn't you lose it? It's like straight away. It's like, but I was. It's like, but you lost it. Like you're not that good, are you?
Yeah.
It's like, guys.
You could tell that the machine has not been behind Christian from day one, and a lot of Christian's successes come from having the endorsement of Edge, and I think that's something that kind of stuck by him his entire career.
Yeah.
Christian, in terms of in-ring ability, is really, really good. You can't fault him for that.
Can't deny that he's a talented wrestler.
Yeah,
but
I
think it is true. I don't. If Edge hadn't gone through the door first, I don't think we'd see Christian in the WWE.
Yeah, I firmly agree with you as well. And I think that if Edge hadn't retired then, I don't think you would have seen Edge as a World Heavyweight Champion. I think that's the way it goes.
Edge is a World Heavyweight Champion.
No, I mean, if Edge hadn't retired, you wouldn't have seen Christian as the World Heavyweight Champion. Which is harsh to say. I'm a big fan of Christian, but I mean, the guy. I mean, I'm not here to say that he should have been in that top tier. I don't think he was that person to go there. He wasn't the person you could build a brand around, I don't think, Christian, and I think that was ultimately the reason why he never reached the heights.
I think the one thing is with Christian, everyone knows of the image, the WWE image. Granted, Edge wasn't it, but Edge wasn't as small as Christian.
And he was better on the mic than.
And he was better. He was a better promo
and
guy.
Some say he was better in the ring than Christian as well.
Yeah, but I think it's because Christian doesn't hold that image. No. Especially now, especially currently, how many times do we joke the fact that Christian looks like he just reanimated?
He looks like he's going to fall away in the wind, sort of thing.
Yeah, just sort of with the chest paddles at the ready, just he's about to go out. Clear, katoon, go wrestle.
Yeah, just get another couple of minutes out of the guy, yeah, sort of thing. But yeah, I agree with you, and we're big fans of Christian, but they don't. It's almost like Rey Mysterio as well with WWE. They've got no stock in him. They don't want to put stock in him. They don't see a future in him, and to a degree, I can kind of agree.
They'll just keep him around.
You can be there as your utility guy. He'll pull off a great match for you every now and then, and he'll fill that slot for you. But he's not going to be your next big thing, and any chance of him winning more championship belts is long, long gone.
That's it. Especially with the unifications of the belt, we're definitely not going to see him.
We're not going to see with the likes of all the other people on the roster that are gunning for that belt: Brock Lesnar, Batista, Daniel Bryan, and Roman Reigns and Bray Wyatt coming up to that top spots that are eventually going to go. Yeah. You can't see Christian being put at the top of the pile.
Sitting in there, no. Yeah.
So that's our Superstar Spotlight for Christian. I hope you guys did enjoy that. It's
unfortunately, we turned around and said we're fans of Christian. That sounded pretty slating. Christian.
Yeah, it did a little bit.
We're fans of Christian. He was terrible.
He wasn't terrible. I just don't.
But it's you're sort of in hindsight. That's pretty much how it sounded.
Yeah. No, just to confirm, we are big fans of Christian, but we can understand as well. I mean, one of the things that really damaged him is that during that time when he was rivaling with having his feud with Randy Orton, he got injured and he suffered a lot of injuries in a row. It's quite like to Rey Mysterio, where the injuries sort of halted any chance of them continuing on in the same vein.
Yeah. It's all like that, sort of like the proper breaks on the ship sort of thing. It's just no.
Yeah. And it was almost like one injury after another, and that can really just take the wind out of any sails,
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, his in-ring ability cannot be questioned. He is a great wrestler, and he when he retire, he can look back on those World Heavyweight title wins and be proud of them, and he should be, because why not? He performed in some absolutely fantastic show-stopping matches for Randy Orton for those belts, for the belts, sorry, not those belts, and I remember him having one fantastic match with him that actually stole the entire pay-per-view. So fair play.
Is that when he got RKO'd onto the steps?
I think so, yeah. There was a few ones that they had. I mean, they had a series of really good matches, these two. And it's sort of one of those rivalries that we say that John Cena and Randy Orton don't have chemistry, but, some wrestlers do and some wrestlers don't. Did Orton and Christian have some chemistry? They really did.
That's it.
So it worked well for them. So yeah, in finality, big fans of Christian, but we can understand why he was never the top guy. I think that's probably what we're saying.
Yeah.
So, is there anything else you want to add with the podcast?
No, I've got nothing left.
I think we've done pretty well this week. We've got a lot of audio glory for you this week. And if you're new to the show, why not subscribe to our YouTube channel, so that way you can keep track of all of the podcasts we do. We put one up every weekend, and if there is a pay-per-view, more often than not, we will do a review in the middle of the week. That will cover that as well. So the next one is the big one, WrestleMania. If you're been along with us with the road, or you've subscribed to the last couple of episodes, thanks for coming on for the ride. I have noticed because I get a lot of feedback from numbers and crap that YouTube like to give me, that you guys are listening to the podcast, and the guys that we do have listening to it are listening through all the way. So we appreciate you guys being in the podcast,
sticking along for the run,
and we are growing ever so slowly. So we do appreciate your support. We really, really do. Leave a like to the channel. It's not pivotal, but it definitely helps us. And leave a comment if you want to ask us any questions. We are on Twitter also. I'll leave those addresses in the description. I'm going to try and use Twitter a little bit more if we get a bit of a demand for it. So there you go. That's the way we go from there. Is there anything else at all, Matt, you'd like to add on this week?
No, I am all good.
We're going to sign off because we've done a good job. We feel good. Alright guys, thanks a lot for listening to this week's episode. We hope you have a great week, and we'll see you all next time.
That's it.
Bye bye.
Catch you soon.